September 15, 1940. 10:47 p.m. London. The night is thick with fog. Street lamps barely pierce the haze. You can almost hear the faint hum of distant aircraft engines, but no bombs fall tonight. Not yet. And yet, the city holds its breath. Inside a nondescript building in Westminster, a team of men huddles over maps, radios, and typewriters. Commander John Bevan, a quiet, sharp-eyed officer, scans reports from the front lines and intercepted German communications. Every word, every cipher could be a weapon. Every line of misinformation might save, or end, thousands of lives. Outside, the Blitz rages in waves, but these men are fighting a different war. One Hitler cannot see. One the Luftwaffe cannot bomb. This is the psychological battlefield, where paper, sound, and shadows are as lethal as bullets. Bevan leans over a radio console. On a scratchy frequency, a voice delivers instructions in perfect German, crafted to suggest resistance where none exists. Somewhere across the channel, a German officer pauses mid-sentence, uncertain whether this report is intelligence or fabrication. The seeds of doubt are planted. From hidden loudspeakers along the French coast to coded broadcasts slipped into occupied Europe, Britain's plan is subtle but precise. Fake troop movements, false orders, double agents, and phantom armies all converge into a singular goal: confuse, intimidate, and manipulate the mind of the enemy. A young cryptographer taps keys, sending misinformation to multiple German field units simultaneously. Each false report carries the weight of a phantom army. Hitler's generals believe forces are gathering where none exist, supply lines appear under threat that never was, and every action must be questioned. In Berlin, command rooms fill with maps, papers, and the tension of uncertainty. Officers argue over movements, unsure whether a reported ambush is real or an illusion. Every delay, every hesitation is exactly what Britain intends. The most skilled operators of Britain's secret intelligence service understand the stakes. One error could expose their network, yet every correct move spreads confusion deeper into the Reich. Psychological warfare is a slow, invisible fire. It creeps, it spreads, and it consumes from within. Bevan watches a monitor. A German radio operator broadcasts a false victory report of a British unit destroyed, an event that never happened. Smiles barely visible in the dim room, the team knows the ripple will reach Hitler's generals by morning. The enemy believes they are winning, or losing, or being surrounded, and they cannot know which. Above ground, London sleeps uneasily. Below ground, a war of shadows rages. This is not about bombs falling or streets burning. This is about mind control on a massive scale, using fear, misinformation, and invisible threats. Every report, every radio signal, every whispered rumor becomes a weapon. And yet the most dangerous aspect is unseen. The Germans never know the source. The Allies do not reveal the truth. The fear spreads organically, unchecked, and entirely invisible to the world outside these walls. Tonight, another broadcast is prepared. Another false troop movement is documented. Another illusion of a British counterattack is stitched into the intelligence reports flowing into German headquarters. And somewhere across the channel, Hitler's commanders glance at maps, furrow their brows, and make decisions that will cost lives, not because the enemy struck, but because they believe it might. The war is not always fought with guns. Sometimes the mind itself is the battlefield. And tonight, Britain fires its first unseen volley. October 3, 1940. 02:15 a.m. A hidden radio station near Dover. The room hums with static and tension. A young operator, Lieutenant Margaret Ellis, adjusts a transmitter dial with careful precision. Her fingers are steady, but her mind races. On the other side of the channel, hundreds of miles away, German troops listen intently to every word, unaware they are being manipulated. Tonight's broadcast is subtle, a whispered rumor of a British counteroffensive gathering unseen forces in Kent. It is deliberately vague, but precise enough to make the enemy hesitate. Every syllable is engineered to plant doubt, to make generals question reports from their own field officers. Outside, fog clings to the cliffs. The sea churns, waves breaking against jagged rocks. You can almost feel the freezing wind against your face. It is the perfect cover for Britain's secret operation, hidden in plain sight, yet invisible to the enemy. Back in Berlin, officers pore over intercepted signals, trying to discern truth from illusion. One general taps a map nervously, pointing at Kent. "Are these reports accurate?" he asks. Others shrug. "It must be," they say, not knowing it is precisely what the British want them to think. The seeds of indecision take root. The psychological warfare strategy is multi-layered. Not only do radio broadcasts confuse, but misinformation is embedded in false troop movements, decoy equipment, and even fake letters intercepted intentionally by German intelligence. Every element is designed to create uncertainty. Where will the British strike? How many forces remain hidden? Which cities are defended or abandoned? The Germans cannot answer. Lieutenant Ellis prepares another transmission. This one will report a phantom air raid in northern France, complete with fake bomber call signs and fabricated casualty reports. It is chillingly effective. German units divert attention, repositioning troops for an attack that will never come. Meanwhile in London, Sir Stuart Menzies, head of MI6, reviews the results of the last deception. Smiles barely visible behind tired eyes. "They are beginning to doubt themselves," he murmurs, and doubt, once planted, spreads faster than any army. Across Europe, German soldiers whisper rumors about phantom battalions, ghost artillery, and British ambushes that never occurred. Morale wavers. Confidence falters. Commanders argue over conflicting reports, unsure whether the enemy is stronger than it seems, or if the intelligence is false. Every pause, every hesitation is a victory for Britain. This war is unlike any other. There are no guns, no trenches, no bloodied streets here. Victory comes through illusion, confusion, and fear. And yet, the consequences are as real as any battlefield. Mistaken orders, delayed attacks, and misallocated resources cost lives, and the British know it. By the time dawn approaches, another layer of deception is complete. The Germans remain unaware they are being played, that the entire narrative they are building is carefully constructed by minds thousands of miles away. Every false report, every hidden broadcast, every phantom army is another silent blow to their morale. And still the British do not stop. They must continue to bend perception, manipulate belief, and control the enemy's mind, all without ever firing a shot. Because the success of this invisible war depends entirely on what the Germans think, not what they see. Somewhere, Hitler himself leans over his desk, maps before him, unaware that his own mind is being subtly guided. Each decision, each movement, each hesitation has already been orchestrated by Britain's unseen hand. The war has shifted. It is no longer just about bombs and bullets. It is a battle for the enemy's perception of reality itself. And the next move is about to come, one that will make the Germans question everything they believe. November 12, 1940. 03:30 a.m. Southern England, mist-laden fields. Through the fog, you can just make out shapes, soldiers moving in careful formations, but they are shadows of a deception. Wooden tanks, canvas-covered trucks, and mannequins dressed in uniform are arranged in precise patterns across fields visible from reconnaissance planes. This is Britain's ghost army, designed to convince German intelligence that forces are gathering where none exist. In a nearby farmhouse, Captain Robert Langley watches through binoculars, noting the positions of every dummy and decoy. Smoke generators are placed strategically along hedgerows. Trails of fire from small controlled pyrotechnics mimic activity, and the sound of recorded troop movements plays faintly from hidden speakers. Every detail is calculated to trick aerial photography and human observation alike. Across the channel, German reconnaissance pilots photograph the fields. Analysts study the images, believing the reports. British forces are preparing for a massive counterattack. Commanders send orders to reposition divisions. Supplies are rerouted. Men march into traps that exist only in imagination. Uncertainty spreads like a virus through the German chain of command. Meanwhile, Britain's intelligence officers monitor reactions meticulously. One misstep could reveal the ruse. If a German reconnaissance plane notices inconsistencies, the illusion would collapse. But so far, every report confirms what the British had predicted. The Phantom battalions are performing perfectly. It's not just about decoys on the ground. In ports, false radio traffic simulates the arrival of troopships that do not exist. Convoys appear on maps, marked with fabricated schedules. Fake fuel depots are constructed to mislead spies and agents. Even dummy signals are sent to mimic troop movements by night. Germany's eyes and ears are deceived, and the confusion grows. The psychological impact is profound. German officers begin questioning their own intelligence. Orders contradict one another. Suspicion rises. Morale weakens, not because of combat losses, but because the enemy cannot trust what they see. Every hesitation becomes a British advantage. In London, cryptographers in dimly lit rooms intercept German responses. Patterns emerge. Commanders argue over what is real, unsure whether an attack is imminent or a trap. The British watch silently as their invisible battlefield unfolds. Captain Langley walks among the decoys, his boots sinking into wet soil. He knows that in this war, illusion is as deadly as a bullet. A single photograph can alter strategy. A single rumor can paralyze divisions. And all of it is entirely unseen, intangible, yet devastatingly effective. By midday, reports confirm that several German units have delayed operations based on the Phantom threat. No shots have been fired. No lives lost, yet. And still, the deception must continue. Every field, every broadcast, every shadow plays a role in this delicate, invisible war. And somewhere, far from these misty fields, a German general frowns at conflicting reports, unsure whether to advance or retreat, believing a threat that does not exist. Because in this war, the most powerful weapon is fear of what might be real. December 7, 1940. 11:12 p.m. Occupied Europe, in the shadows of German-occupied France. A small van rolls silently along a dark country road. Inside, Lieutenant Henry Carver checks the bundles of leaflets carefully stacked beside him. Each one carries a message meant to reach the minds of German soldiers. Doubts, fears, rumors, truth twisted just enough to seem plausible. Tonight, these whispers will travel further than any soldier could march. The leaflets are scattered by the wind over German encampments, dropped from the air, and sometimes slipped into the hands of unsuspecting enemy soldiers through local resistance networks. The text is subtle: hints of mutiny, exaggerations of British strength, false reports of incoming reinforcements. Nothing is overt, nothing is confrontational, but the seeds of mistrust grow quickly. Inside the Reich, officers receive intercepted reports. One German corporal reads a leaflet tucked under his door. He pauses. His brow furrows. Could the British really have infiltrated this far? Could entire battalions be lying in wait, invisible in the night? The whisper reaches his mind before it reaches the map room, and doubt begins to take root. Simultaneously, British broadcasters at secret stations transmit coded messages into enemy territory. The signals are disguised as harmless entertainment or local news, but are laced with misinformation, dates of phantom attacks, the names of fake commanders, reports of non-existent troop movements. Some messages even hint at imminent reinforcements or supplies, prompting German units to adjust positions unnecessarily. Every movement is choreographed, every response anticipated. Even among the German high command, tension rises. Reports from reconnaissance conflict. Decisions are delayed. Hitler himself grows frustrated, unaware that his generals are being manipulated by an invisible force. Orders contradict each other. Panic simmers quietly beneath rigid discipline. The British watch, record, and adjust. Meanwhile, back in London, Carver and his team monitor the reactions. The tiniest ripple in the enemy ranks is a victory. A single officer delaying an attack, a single battalion pulled from its route. These are proof that perception can be weaponized. And perception, unlike any physical force, cannot be predicted with certainty, only shaped. The campaign is relentless. Every day, more leaflets, more coded broadcasts, more phantom movements. The psychological pressure is constant, and the Germans are beginning to feel it. Confidence wanes. Suspicion spreads from the top brass to the rank-and-file soldiers. Friends distrust each other. Orders are questioned. Every hesitation, every misstep benefits the unseen British hand. And yet, the most chilling part is invisible to all but a few in London. The soldiers themselves, unaware of the manipulation, carry the tension in their bodies, the doubt in their eyes. They may be convinced they are preparing for a real attack, but in reality, the battlefield exists only in their minds. By dawn, the whispers have done their work. Confusion reigns in occupied territories. Decisions are delayed. Movements are miscalculated. And Britain, without firing a shot in these regions, has already won small victories that will ripple across the European theater. The question now is simple and terrifying. How far can fear alone shape the outcome of war? January 18, 1941. 02:45 a.m. Berlin, inside the Reich Chancellery. In the dim glow of oil lamps, German officers huddle over maps and telegraphs. Reports flood in, troop sightings that never occurred, phantom convoys moving through the night, radio signals carrying false confirmations. Every piece of intelligence seems credible, but nothing is certain. A general rubs his temples. "Are we being deceived?" he mutters, almost to himself. Far away in London, Commander John Bevan reads the German reactions carefully. Each hesitation, each miscalculation is recorded, analyzed, and amplified. The British team knows exactly how misinformation spreads through enemy ranks. It is methodical, surgical, and invisible. Every false report creates cascading doubt, slowing enemy planning, misdirecting resources, and breaking morale from within. Meanwhile, British double agents embedded in occupied Europe send reports that reinforce the illusions. One spy, Eliza Hartley, delivers a fabricated story of a British battalion preparing to strike in northern France. German officers, unaware of her deception, move troops defensively. Time, supplies, and energy are wasted. The enemy fights a war that exists only in their imagination. In Berlin, tension grows unbearable. Hitler paces the room, staring at maps that seem to contradict themselves. He questions his own officers. Are they lying? Are the spies right? Should forces be redeployed? Every decision is haunted by uncertainty. Fear has become a weapon, invisible yet lethal, shaping strategies without a single bullet fired. Back in London, analysts smile quietly. They've learned that controlling what the enemy believes can be more powerful than controlling territory. The Germans are trapped in a web of their own mind, reacting to threats that are orchestrated, not real. Psychological warfare has become a battlefield of intellect, deception, and patience. The stakes rise. Every false movement, every broadcast, every whisper of a phantom attack must remain believable. If the illusion is detected, the advantage disappears. The team works relentlessly, knowing that history itself hangs on these invisible maneuvers. And yet, the most remarkable truth remains unseen by the world. Britain is winning battles without ever confronting the enemy directly. The victory exists entirely in the chaos zone inside the minds of their adversaries. But the Germans are beginning to notice patterns. Some officers start questioning the reliability of their intelligence. Suspicion grows. Could this be more than coincidence? Could Britain's strategy be intentionally deceptive? The psychological war teeters on a knife's edge. And then a single intercepted report arrives, one that could expose the entire illusion. Every operation, every broadcast, every phantom troop movement is at risk of being unraveled. The unseen war, waged in silence and shadows, may be about to face its first real test. February 27, 1941, 04:10 a.m. A clandestine MI6 operations room, London. The room is dim, lit only by the glow of maps, telegraph machines, and flickering lanterns. Commander Bevan stands at the center, eyes scanning dozens of reports from agents in occupied Europe. Patterns emerge, subtle but unmistakable. The Germans are reacting exactly as predicted. Misdirection, illusions, and whispers have sown confusion, and now that confusion is paralyzing their decisions. In Paris, German officers argue over phantom threats. Reports of reinforced British battalions have forced divisions to divert, leaving other strategic locations exposed. Some generals question their own intelligence. Others grow paranoid, suspecting spies in their midst. Morale, once steady, now quivers under the weight of unseen pressure. Back in London, cryptographers intercept radio chatter confirming delayed operations and misallocated troops. Bevan leans closer to the monitor, nodding the timing. Each hesitation, each pause, each misstep is a victory. Here, on the invisible battlefield, fear is the weapon, and Britain wields it masterfully. Even the Allies begin to notice subtle effects on German tactics. Supply lines are disrupted, reinforcements misdirected, and offensive plans delayed. It is a war without guns, fought entirely in the mind, a battle of perception, deception, and anticipation. Yet the psychological pressure must be sustained. One careless broadcast, one exposed deception could alert the Germans and collapse the carefully built illusions. The team works around the clock, rotating shifts, checking each transmission, each leaflet, each fake report. Every detail is scrutinized. Across occupied Europe, ordinary German soldiers whisper about phantom artillery, phantom battalions, and British attacks that never arrive. Fear spreads not from bullets but from uncertainty, mistrust, and doubt. Officers grow hesitant, questioning reports from their own men. Command structures, once rigid, begin to show cracks. And somewhere in Berlin, Hitler grows restless. Orders contradict reports. Generals argue fiercely, unable to distinguish reality from illusion. Every hesitation, every miscalculation, strengthens Britain's invisible grip. But there is a risk, an ever-present danger. If the Germans discover the deception network, the psychological war could backfire, giving them the upper hand instead. Bevan's team knows this, and yet they press on. For in this war, control over perception is the ultimate power, and Britain cannot afford to falter. Tonight, another carefully orchestrated broadcast is scheduled. Another leaflet will find its way behind enemy lines. Another phantom troop movement will appear on German maps. Every move must be flawless. Every shadow perfectly aligned. And as dawn approaches over London, one question hangs heavy in the air. Can a war waged entirely in the mind truly determine the fate of nations? May 8, 1945. 07:32 a.m. London, the day the war in Europe ends. The city erupts in cheers. Bells toll. Crowds pour into streets. Spitfires roar overhead. Victory at last. Yet beneath the jubilation, very few understand the full story of how Britain survived and ultimately helped turn the tide of war. For 5 years, an invisible battle raged. One fought not with tanks, not with guns, but with shadows, whispers, and deception. Phantom armies, coded broadcasts, misleading intelligence, and carefully orchestrated rumors had crippled German decision-making long before British boots ever stepped on occupied soil. Every hesitation in the enemy's command, every diverted troop, Every misallocated supply line was a victory achieved without a single confrontation. In London, Commander John Bevan and his team finally exhale. The psychological warfare campaign, so secret it could never be acknowledged publicly, had succeeded. Germany had been manipulated, confounded, and destabilized from the inside out. Fear and doubt, tools invisible yet lethal, had reshaped the battlefield entirely. The world remembers the Blitz, the beaches, the bombings, and the battles. But the invisible war, the one inside enemy minds, is largely forgotten. Few know of the cryptographers who manipulated signals, the agents who spread uncertainty, and the teams that orchestrated illusions across Europe. Their weapons were deception, suggestion, and fear. Their victories were silent but profound. Even today, historians marvel at the genius of Britain's strategy. They ask how a small island nation, facing a seemingly invincible enemy, could survive against overwhelming odds. The answer lies not only in courage and resilience, but in mastery of the mind itself. By turning the enemy's perception into a weapon, Britain fought a war that Germany never saw, never understood, and ultimately could not win. Victory did not come only from the bombs dropped or the soldiers mobilized. It came from the war waged in shadows, behind the lines in whispers, and in the chaos sown inside enemy minds. A war fought silently, invisibly, and brilliantly, one that changed the course of history forever.